we're going to have a discussion about race relations in America. I'm with A.J. Ali. He's a Santa Monica resident. He's a filmmaker and a good friend of mine. Hi, A.J.
Hey, Phil. Good to be here with you.
And it's good to have you on because you've been doing a documentary for 4.5 years now. It's finally complete, I understand, and it's important. Tell us about the documentary.
Well, the film is called Walking While Black, with a subtitle of Love is the Answer. So the film is addressing racial profiling, excessive force, and other issues between the police and the black community, but even beyond that, the brown community and others who feel disenfranchised. Well, we are tackling a very sensitive subject from a solutions-oriented perspective. We're offering love as a solution and love as an acronym for learn about the community you serve, open your heart to the people in it, volunteer yourself to be part of the solution, and empower others to do the same.
And what did you find while making this documentary? We've all seen frequent news reports. We have anecdotal evidence from around the United States on all of the problems that happen between our police, the demonstrations, the riots, the Black Lives Matter movement.
Right.
Tell me what you found.
Well, first of all, I found out who my real friends were, because when I started working on this in June of 2012, no one wanted to hear about this story of black people being harassed by police. I was just that angry black man. Some people say, "Are you making it up?" Others would just unfriend me and go about their way.
The world sure proved those doubters wrong pretty quickly, because there was an explosion of violence, an explosion of incidents that you now see captured on camera on everyone's phones that showed disturbing trends in policing.
You know, this is really the first time that it has been shown on a wide scale. Virtually everyone in the black community has known for a long, long time what the deal is, until it got onto CNN and all the other news stations on a regular basis. A lot of people were allowed to just put their head in the sand and pretend like it didn't exist. Until recently, we saw so many people dying on camera. Eric Garner, for example, in New York, he's the guy who said, "It stops today. You know, this can't continue to happen." Well, I said those very same words back in Howard County, Maryland in the summer of 2012, when I was stopped for walking down a street and an officer thought was a neighborhood that I didn't belong. His exact words were, "We're stopping everyone who looks like they're not from this neighborhood."
That is quite obviously wrong. There shouldn't be anybody in the United States or around the world who would think that would be correct police behavior.
But it's happening. It happens every day. I'm 53 now. The incident that prompted me to embark on this 4.5-year journey to make this film happened when I was 48.
Did you file a complaint when that policeman stopped you?
Oh, I did. I did everything that you're supposed to do. I called my attorney right away. In fact, after the first officer did what he did to me, I called my attorney walking away from him. And by the time I was 2 minutes into the conversation, that police officer showed up with 2 other police officers. And the fact that I had my attorney on the phone and was able to say, "My attorney's on speakerphone," may have saved me from some harm that day. I then wrote a complaint. I gave it to the NAACP of Howard County. I gave it to Internal Affairs. I gave it to the Human Rights Commission of Howard County. Nothing happened.
You went above and beyond what other black residents of any city, are expected to do, and most of them can't do. That magnifies the problem, because you were educated enough, you were vocal enough, you felt that your rights had been violated, and still it was okay for that policeman to say, "You shouldn't be here, we have to stop you."
People are afraid to speak up. I was afraid. I didn't know what they were going to do to me. After I filed the complaint with Internal Affairs, after I talked with the NAACP, after I wrote an article about it and thousands of people read it, my wife and I were then followed and harassed for months. We were stopped several times for absolutely nothing. Finally, a female police officer in a Starbucks came up to me and said, "I know who you are. Your likeness, your information has been circulated throughout the police department." And I knew then, without a shadow of a doubt, it wasn't my imagination. We were being targeted. Now, so a lot of people are afraid for good reason because that happens, and so they don't speak up. Black people will get together and we'll talk about what happens, and if there's 10 of us in a room, invariably a few of us have experienced it within the past few months. We'll laugh about it, we might shed a tear or two, and then we'll let it go.
And that in itself is criminal. It shouldn't matter what color your skin is. It shouldn't matter where you are walking down the street. That shouldn't be an issue. And for the police to act as their own armed gang is ludicrous in this day and age. That should never be happening. So that was why you started working on your documentary.
I just knew I had to do something. You know, I've got children, I've got grandchildren, you know. I didn't want to think that they could grow up in the same world that I had to grow up in. And my grandfather, he marched with Martin Luther King Jr. He was there for the I Have a Dream speech. You know, he was there because he wanted to make a better life for his family. I want to do the same thing.
Your family members were activists. Your family members weren't going to sit down and take it. That's important.
Yeah, that's right. And I want to go one step further because what you said is exactly right. You and I are good friends. Well, white people and black people need to band together. And quite frankly, a lot of times people don't even pay attention unless it's a white person saying it. And in fact, in our film, there are two guys, Andrew and Jamel. Andrew, white cop, framed Jamel on a drug charge for something he didn't commit. Jamel went to prison. Andrew wound up getting caught. Andrew went to prison, Jamel got released. Afterwards, a few years later, they wound up seeing each other in the same small town when they're both out of prison, and they wind up Jamel forgiving Andrew, them becoming friends, and them going around the country now teaching people reconciliation. If it was just Jamel, people may not respond. But because the two of them have come together and because their story is so profound, that's powerful. So if we get people of all colors saying this is happening to people who don't look like me, who are my neighbors, my coworkers, my friends, they are so important to me that I'm not going to just let it go. I'm going to stand up. And I think that's one of the beautiful things that we saw with the uprisings that took place around the country, is that it wasn't just black people coming out into the streets. It was every color under the rainbow. We don't need violence, but we do need to exercise our rights of protest, sit down with each other and have real, hard, difficult dialogue that can break down the barriers.
And these incidents happen all across our country. We have a wonderful city, but our city isn't immune. You're right. It's a community problem, but the whole community has to band together. Police, administrations, and city councils and state legislators who are willing to go that extra mile to demand that enforcement be equal.
That is one of the things I love about living here in Santa Monica. My wife and I lived here years ago. We moved away. We came back a year and a half ago. And one of the things that's brought me great joy is to have seen the relationship that exists between the police department and the community. It's different here. It's not perfect. There's room for improvement, but the willingness is there to talk and to create that space where we can improve.
What was the budget of your documentary?
Blood, sweat, and tears, baby.
Okay, I understand. You know, you've been showing this documentary and getting really good acceptance. You're showing it in some major halls in America.
Tomorrow, I go to Philadelphia, and I do a screening for the NAACP of Philadelphia. The next week, I'm going to Washington. Congressman Elijah Cummings is hosting a screening of the film at the Congressional Black Caucus. The room's going to seat 500, and by all indications, it's going to be overflowing.
Your documentary is preaching to the choir. While they need to see it and spread the word, other audiences are the ones who have to see it. Where else do we get this shown?
It has been shown at Santa Monica College by the Police Activities League here in Santa Monica.
What was the response?
The response is phenomenal when we get in front of young people. We showed it to 530 students at UCLA, and they loved it. They had done a full day of activities and came to our screening, and their eyes were glued. We had a great discussion afterward. They're responding. We're asking people to go out and call their local police department and do a ride-along. We're asking people to make a 5-minute short film of their own. You know, get a teen and a police officer and do your own film and put that out there on social media. We've created a 5-minute film contest that people can participate in from all over the country and win prizes for those efforts. We're showing the film in as many different places as we can: churches, synagogues, mosques. We're showing it high schools and colleges. We're showing it in theaters. We're in festivals. We won the Garifuna International Film Festival here in Venice, Best Documentary Film and Audience Favorite. You mentioned preaching to the choir. It's absolutely right. We get in front of a group of NAACP, or if we're at the Black Caucus, we are preaching to the choir to an extent. However, we're asking people to invite people. Just because it's a Congressional Black Caucus doesn't mean white people can't go. You know, just because it's an NAACP screening. Look, the NAACP was started by every color you can think of. Let's get back to that. You know, I'm telling all my white friends, you know, Latino, everything you can think of, you got to be a part of this, you know, because they're coming for me right now. But pretty soon they're going to be coming for you too.
Documentaries like this make a difference. I know as a filmmaker, you hope that what you put on screen causes people to reflect and causes people to take actions to change attitudes.
I love storytelling. It can make a difference. We have a chance now with this film and some others out there to take the information in, learn from it, dialogue with each other, and then put action steps out there that we can shape the narrative. One of the things I'm telling young people, like the students at UCLA, how many of you are studying criminal justice? Or how many of you have thought about becoming a lawyer, a civil rights attorney, or a police officer? These are the fields that we need to go into. We need to be the change that we wish to see. So if it's not changing by itself, if you see a film like this and it moves your heart, then you need to figure out what can you do to be part of the solution. I'm going to continue to make films that make a difference. And your career is in front of you. You might want to consider going into law enforcement or law in some way so that you can shape it from the inside out.
The way to change attitudes is through education, is through generational change. I think we've all been sad the last few months. Most of us thought there more change had occurred than actually has occurred. And we've seen almost a backsliding to racial attitudes that I hope were gone in the 1960s.
Look, Trump didn't win the popular vote. By all indications, there are better solutions out there than the ones that he's putting forth. A lot of people are upset about where we are, but do we just let it be? No, we take action, we do something about it. You know, I served in the Air Force for 4 years because I believed I could make a difference as one airman out there doing his thing. I've done things with nonprofit groups over the years. All the media that I've done in film and television and music, I've tried to make it meaningful. We just need to keep pressing because we'll win if we don't quit.
Too many times people are more willing to say, oh yeah, that's wrong, and then they go back to their house and they sit down.
That's right.
And sitting down doesn't work. Standing up for the rights of everyone works.
That's right.
The name of your documentary again?
Walking While Black, Love is the Answer.
Walking While Black, Love is the Answer, and it is indeed a large part of the answer. Thank you, AJ. It's good to see you, and I look forward to coming to the next screening of this valuable documentary. For Brock and Your Block, I'm Phil Brock. We'll see you next time.